welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris.
My name is Justin.
And my name is Mike. Today's episode will be going over what's on our minds, followed by our review of 2001, A Space Odyssey. And real quick, we just wanted to mention that we did just release a new poll to choose our next theme for the Casually Criterion episodes. The poll should be up on Twitter now, so go check it out. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, vote for my theme. And if you don't remember which one's my theme, listen to our Casually Criterion episode.
Absolutely, we just dropped an episode on Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, which was the winner I chose.
Covering all the classics lately.
Yeah, and B.I.G. is in there too. He's notorious.
Yeah. Well, if you want to go vote for those and stay up to date with what we're doing for our next episode and our next Casually Criterion episode, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. If you have any questions you want us to answer, you can send them there, or you can email us directly at casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then, of course, please don't forget to go onto iTunes and give us a 5-star review and write a review letting us know what you think of the show, and we will read it out on the show.
And before we move into what's on our minds, we do have a few iTunes reviews.
Yay.
So let's go ahead and dive into those. The first one we have is from Cinema Speak, which is the Cinema Speak podcast that says, "This is easily one of my favorite movie podcasts. It's clear that the hosts all get along, and that makes the show a lot of fun to listen to, almost like you're hanging out with a group of friends. They're very informed and offer a wide range of film discussion, all while keeping the conversation casual and down to earth."
Wow,
Thank you, Cinema Speak.
We really pulled the wool over their eyes about getting along and whatnot, because
Yeah.
I can't stand you guys.
Yeah.
And being very informed. Because
Yeah, well, obviously.
Yeah. Thanks for the 5 stars.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And up next, we have a review from Cinematically Correct, which is the Cinematically Correct podcast. And their review says, "Finding another podcast with the same initials basically means we are obligated to listen. LOL. I actually really enjoyed this podcast. This pod has such a laid-back and casual feel. The hosts are not super in your face, but the bits and pieces they pick out of movies I thought I knew inside and out are astounding. Don't listen to this if you don't want to have to rewatch your favorite movie over again, because these guys will make you think." Cool. I didn't know we were making people think.
Yeah, that was the...
Wow.
Really nice. Thank you again for that review. We got one last review, guys. It's called Fun Topic Fun Guys from Boobies and Newbies.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm already a fan. It says, "If you're a movie fan, you'll love the show. If you're a podcast fan, you'll love the show. The guys are hilarious." Hilarious spelled in all caps, and I think really that was meant for me, guys. "And have a fantastic banter across the episodes. It's so rare to find a podcast where you like the topics and the hosts, but this is it. Thanks for the consistent comedy and movie commentary. Mike, Chris, and Justin. Loving the Mission Impossible Fallout episode right now." All right, so thank you very much for that. That's actually more than we deserve, probably.
Yeah, thank you. And also, check out our Mission Impossible Fallout episode. Apparently it's really funny.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
We make people think we're funny. I don't know. This is sounds
Maybe-
like fake news to me.
Maybe we make people think we're funny.
But either way, that's a success. All right, well, thank you so much for those reviews. And with that, are we ready to move into what's on our minds?
Let's do it.
Okay, so who wants to go first with what's on our minds?
I'll go first. I never go first. All right, so I watched the film Disobedience. This is the film starring Rachel McAdams and Rachel Weisz.
Two of my favorite Rachels.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sold me on it already.
I'm there for it. So this is about a woman who returns home to a very small religious community where her father, like the head rabbi of the community, has recently passed away. And she was sort of estranged from her family. And anyway, when she returns home, she finds that her childhood best friend has married her cousin. And some old feelings get to stir up, and turns out her and her childhood friend, played by Rachel McAdams, start to rekindle some old feelings, which does not come welcomely from the ultra super religious community around them, as you can imagine.
Right.
So that's that movie.
What did you like it?
I did, but not as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
I watched it with my girlfriend, and she kind of said it reminded her of the fake trailer from Tropic Thunder, where Robert Downey Jr. plays a gay priest with Tobey Maguire.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Satan's Alley. It felt kind of like that, right? I think the name doesn't do it any favors, let's put it that way. I think the performances from both the Rachels are wonderful.
Okay, yeah.
I cared about their characters quite a bit, but some of the side characters and the way they deal with a lot of the things that happen in the movie, I was not able to track their emotional journeys. It felt like movie writing and not like the way people would really react to such things. And I'll just keep it there. But anyone who's seen the movie will know that there's some key scenes that depend on certain characters and their actions. And if you don't follow that journey, I think a lot of it's just going to feel underwhelming at the end.
Okay.
But overall, it's good, just for the performances alone. So overall, 3 out of 5 for me.
All right.
Okay, that sounds good. This one kind of interested me, but kind of didn't. Like, I like Rachel Wise a lot, and I'll usually watch anything she's in, but nothing else about it really piqued my interest. So I guess I'm still kind of on the fence, because 3 out of 5 is not that glowing or not that damning either.
I like it better today than I did when it was first over, but overall it just feels very... It's not saying anything new.
So let me ask you, this is kind of what I have in mind. Does it feel like a bland Oscar movie? Does that make sense? Like a movie where the topics kind of scream Oscar.
Yeah, there's a reason it came out earlier this year and not like a month from now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
right.
That makes sense. Yeah, otherwise it would have come out in December. Or
yeah,
November.
It's not as good as something like Call Me By Your Name with similar subject matter.
Yeah.
But it's better than,
Happy
most
Time
movies. Murders. Yeah, there you go. Happy Time Murders. So, see it for the Rachels.
Do it for the Rachels.
Love the Rachels.
They
Cool.
earned it.
Well, yeah, if you've got nothing else, I can go next.
Go for it.
All right, so I watched a whole lot this week. So I've narrowed it down to 2 things that I wanted to talk about. One of those being the film Action Point, which was the film starring Johnny Knoxville and Chris Pontius, the guys from Jackass. Okay.
Don't call this a film. You're using the word film.
It's a movie? Does it deserve that?
That's closer to what it is. Anyway, proceed. I'm sorry.
The images and sounds that were Action Point. Anyway, so it stars Johnny Knoxville and Chris Pontius from Jackass. This is the film that came out in the summer. It was actually way back when we did our most anticipated movies of the summer. This was one of the films that I had on my list strictly for my love of Jackass. And I even enjoyed Bad Grandpa to an extent. But I will basically watch any Jackass sequel that comes out, almost anything connected with Jackass at this point in my life. So I was excited about seeing this one. The film was sold basically on the idea that Johnny Knoxville and Chris Pontius and some of the other people in the film all do their own stunts. So people are actually falling, getting hit by things, and getting hurt for real. It's not stunt people, not stunt doubles.
So it's a lot like Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah, it's like Mission Impossible, but
yeah, they're doing their own stunts.
Less everything than Mission Impossible, I guess. But yeah, it's supposed to be a comedy film with like kind of a narrative where they're acting in between. And have either of you guys seen this movie?
I have not, and I don't think I will.
I saw it because it was on your most anticipated movies. So I thought to myself, hey, I'll give it a shot.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so this movie baffles me. I don't know who it's for. I mean, I guess it's for people like you.
It's to get my money for sure.
Yeah.
I don't even know that it's for me.
Let me ask you this. Are you still at a point in your life where you will watch anything Jackass related?
Yes.
What?
Okay.
100%.
Okay, so then this movie's for you because
Fair enough.
I am not at that point. If I was before, I am certainly not now. I didn't like Bad Grandpa very much, and this movie was a whole new realm of depressing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
There's not enough jackassery to, like, there's no stunts. Like, there's a few stunts, but there's not that many stunts to really merit the Jackass brand, you know?
Yeah, because I don't necessarily count someone getting, like, hit or punched or something as a stunt, right? Like, it's got to be sort of like a set piece in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like someone jumping off of a roof and then landing badly and then not getting up until the shot cuts away doesn't always equal a stunt to me. Right. And anyway, it's just, I don't know. It's strung over like this really loose narrative of this Johnny Knoxville character who owns a really terrible theme park, and like his whole mission statement is like, back in the day when I owned this park, you know, people didn't sue you when they got hurt. They just toughed it up and like moved on with their lives. And then anyway, it goes on to make this our main character, and just Johnny Knoxville does not have any charisma as a narrative actor, nor does Chris Pontius.
No, that's one of many problems with the movie, is just the two main actors. Like, they have to act in between all of the stunts, which it's fine watching them in the times where they are doing a stunt and getting hurt is relatively enjoyable in comparison to the rest of the movie. But in between all of that, and there's a lot of in between time, you have to watch them act out this story that's not that interesting, and it's certainly not being lifted by good acting. You know what I mean?
No, it's like Johnny Knoxville connecting with his granddaughter, or daughter.
Yeah, well, he's telling the story of his theme park to his granddaughter and connecting with her, but also his daughter in the flashbacks, he's connecting or trying to connect with her as well.
Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, this is the kind of movie that you're in for.
Yeah, but I think the big thing is like it needed a lot more stunts, right? A lot more stunts, a lot less plot and narrative and acting. And which basically it should have just been another Jackass movie, or at least Bad Grandpa, where they had like, it was sort of candid camera sketches alongside stunt stuff.
Exactly. And also there's this added element of depression, because it feels like, and I don't know if it's part of the character, but Johnny Knoxville's like limping the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think he just has done such damage to his body that he just can't move very well anymore, and he's old and stiff and just seems sad to watch.
Well, so I watched some interviews with him and like listened to some podcast interviews with him around the time that Action Point came out, and this is actually the most he's ever been hurt while filming is for Action Point. Like, more, he never got more injured than this than like in any of the Jackass movies. Like, he got injured a lot, and I feel bad for him as well, because it doesn't show. It's like not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, it's none of it is anywhere near as satisfying as like the worst Jackass sketch or Jackass stunt.
I wonder if that's a line to promote the movie, right? I got hurt the most during this movie than any other movie, any of the other Jackass movies. It kind of sounds like a salesman point line to sell.
Well, I think it also has to be from the fact that he's never been older than he's been in this movie.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
that's what I think it is too. Are you saying you think it's a lie, or just like they're really
a line, like a salesman line? You know, like that's they're a tagline. You know,
that might be true though.
Yeah. It could be true. Yeah, for sure.
But avoid the movie. I think don't watch it. It's like, even if you love Jackass, not worth your time. You won't be satisfied, and then you'll sit through a whole movie, and next time if you're like me, you'll watch the next Jackass connected thing, you'll be worrying if it's going to be as bad as Action Point, and you can just avoid that by not watching Action Point and have hope going into the next one,
or save your money on all the Jackass movie and
no.
Yeah. If you have any hope left at all.
Yeah.
For the Jackass crew, I guess.
Yeah. Hope remains alive for Justin, that's for sure.
Absolutely. There's always hope.
Hopefully
if we don't have hope, we don't have anything.
They should just do a Kickstarter and you can finance them.
I would subscribe to the highest tier. I don't care what it was. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, and I think this will be pretty brief because I don't think anyone really cares as far as like you two go, but I did watch this sports docu-series that is on Amazon Prime, and it's called All or Nothing Manchester City. And All or Nothing, it's this documentary series where they follow a sports team for an entire season, and they're with them from start to finish. And this particular one they did about Manchester City, which is a soccer team from England, and they're in the league that I watch. They're not necessarily the team that I like from the league, but it's this really thorough behind-the-scenes look at this club and what they do day in and day out, and like the story of their season, because they had happened to have like a record-breaking season at the time that they were filming of them, which is really cool. And they have what is considered to be the greatest soccer coach working right now with them. So getting to like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying nice.
Oh yeah. 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 So getting to get a peek into his brain, because they actually have like interviews with him where he's talking about what he's thinking about and what's going on with him, and more so than he talks about in like press conferences before or after games, right? And then you actually get the camera is in the locker room at like halftime of games sometimes, or in like their pre-game like tactic discussion, like on the day of a game. So you can like get a peek into all of this behind the scenes stuff that you don't normally get. And then it's actually pretty well made. Like it's pretty fast paced and like well shot. And there's a lot of like England and other countries they go on display. And yeah, it's interesting. I think if you're any sort of sports fan or specifically a soccer fan, like search this out. It's on Amazon Prime. It's 8 45 to 50 minute episodes, and it's great.
Was that the season that they won the World Series Bowl?
Yep.
Okay,
nailed it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Is that a serious question? Because I dismissed it like a joke, but I think it's...
No, it wasn't serious.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah.
I didn't know, so it could have been serious.
It's the World Series Bowl. Congratulations. Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting from a dramatic perspective. I don't think you necessarily have to be a major fan of those sports. It probably helps, but I think it'd be fun to watch.
I would say it would definitely help. Like, it tries to introduce you to the characters and the players and kind of set up where they are and like their stature in the soccer world. But I think to really like fully appreciate it, you'll have to like kind of be in on that somewhat already. I could be wrong. It could be that I'm just so into like the England Premier League and I know so much about Manchester City already that information didn't seem that informative to me. Mm-hmm. So I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I can't really say much more than that.
You don't have to lie, Chris. You can say it sounds boring and you have no interest in it, and that's fine. But the listeners out there who might have interest in it, this is for you.
Yeah, there you go, Tom.
At Beard Knows Best, maybe.
Yeah,
we talked about the World Cup a lot. All right, but yeah, that's it for me. So, Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, this week I watched a couple of things. I started off with American Animals. It's a film that was directed by Bart Layton. I'm not familiar with his other work, but he did direct Imposter from 2012. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. And then it's also starring Evan Peters from X-Men and Barry Coogan from Dunkirk, and also The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh, yeah. I like that guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm spelling or pronouncing his name right. I apologize if I'm not. And the always amazing Ann Dowd is in this from The Leftovers and all sorts of stuff. She's amazing, always good. And this is about 4 young men who plan a heist in order to find meaning in their life. I thought this was a very interesting movie, and there's a gimmick in there that can really make or break the film for you. You know, you're either going to really like it or hate it. I think this is a really great film. The actors and direction is really on point, and I really recommend watching it. It's kind of a shame that 2018's been such a great year, because this movie, I think, has been overshadowed because it's not quite as up to snuff for 2018, I think. Someone should watch this, one of you two, and we can talk about it, because there's a gimmick in there, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it, and I kind of want to talk about it. But I really enjoyed this movie. Thought it was really worth watching. Have you guys heard anything about it or know much about it?
I have seen the poster, and that is it.
Yeah, I saw a trailer a while back. It looked like it could be pretty good. I remember it got pretty good reviews, but didn't do too well, box office wise.
Yeah, I think it came out around the time of Black Panther and other movies like that. So I'm not sure how well it was going to do anyways. I think this is a movie that'll definitely do better maybe on Netflix. More people will find it there and have more of a life after the movie theater. I think it's really good, and hopefully one of you guys will watch it and we can talk about it a little bit further.
You know why I think this movie got looked over?
I think I do, but I want you to answer that question.
It's because they didn't smush the words in the name together and call it Americanimals. It would have sold me. I'd have been there opening day.
Yeah. They should have. I don't know what they were thinking and why they didn't.
Me neither. Missed opportunity.
They should really listen to you.
Yeah.
They should.
So, the other thing I watched was Sharp Objects. And Sharp Objects is a TV show on HBO that just ended this last Sunday. It's directed by Jean-Marc Vallée. I don't know how to pronounce his name either. Apologies. He also directed Wild and Dallas Buyers Club, and he did Big Little Liars on HBO, where he directs the whole series, too. He'll direct every episode. So there's 8 episodes in Sharp Objects. But it's starring Amy Adams, Patricia Clarkson and a newcomer, Eliza Scanlon. This show is about a reporter that goes back home to cover the murder of a kidnapping and of 2 little girls and a murder, and the effects of it on her hometown. What I have to say is I binged watched this movie last week, or this TV show. Like, I did it over the weekend. I think I watched, like, the first episode Friday night, and then binged the rest of it Saturday night, except for the last episode. And I really love this show. I enjoyed it so much. It looks amazing and is edited very well. The acting is just phenomenal across the board, with a special shout out to Eliza Scanlon, who, amongst all those great actors, she really holds her own and maybe even like gives them a run for their money sometimes. She's really great. And she's new. Like, this is kind of the first thing that she's done. So I keep a lookout for Eliza Scanlon because she's going to be really great. And the other thing that I wanted to say is it really kind of reminded me a lot of Hereditary. Except for maybe with the supernatural aspects of it. It was the horror of family drama, and it was just really great. I can't recommend this enough. 8 hours, watch it. You guys will love it, I think.
I just watched the first episode.
Oh, did you? Awesome.
Right before we started recording.
Oh, that's great. What did you think?
It's pretty good. I'm going to keep watching. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I am intrigued, and knowing that it's only 8 episodes and there won't be a season 2
only
makes me want to complete it more.
Yeah. And the other... I wanted to say real quick, Gillian Flynn helped write it, and she wrote the book that it's based on. I wanted to put that in there because we can't leave that out. So, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No problem. Overall, I would say, based on the first episode, I don't know how I feel about some of the dialogue from the mom character, but I'm sure everything I have a problem with is just like paving the way for more drama to unfold later.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. It really is, because it's basically a novel. I think Amy Adams is phenomenal in this. I think if this were a movie, if it would have been released in the theaters, she would be up for an Oscar. She's got to be
an Emmy.
Yeah, got to be up for an Emmy. Hey, have you, in the first episode, is her character introduced?
Yes, she is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she's great. And I think that's another character that as you get to know him, there's hidden layers to all of these characters, including Amy Adams. And it's just a great mystery.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to watch more.
I've heard nothing but good things about the show, so I'm definitely going to watch it. Gillian Flynn, she did Gone Girl as well, right? Or wrote the novel Gone Girl, which I really enjoyed. So I'm interested in that. I do have a question. When does a show, if it doesn't have a second season, is it a show or is it like a miniseries?
Oh, they actually
call it...
is there
a difference?
Yeah. What did they call this? It's a limited run series.
Yeah, it's like a limited event. Series
or mini-series, or I don't think they call it mini-series, but I think it's a limited run. Yeah, basically mini-series, but I think they call it limited run now. So
okay,
a lot of times when you're watching shows like this, you're like, well, how are they going to end it and extend it to another season? Oh, and you don't have to worry about this. It's just this one story, and we can move on, right? So I really like that. All right, yeah, that's what's on our minds.
All right, guys. So
yes, it is.
That's about it. We don't have anything else on our minds today.
Not a thing.
No.
All right, are we ready to move into our review of the 50th anniversary of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just not.
You did that so well, I wanted to undercut it. So I
was trying to build up just like the music does at the beginning.
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
You did an amazing job, Mike.
Okay, guys, so before we get into this, just want to let you know we are not going to do a non-spoiler section and then a spoiler section. We're just going to go straight into spoilers because this movie is 50 years old. It's its 50th anniversary. And if you're listening to this, you've probably seen it. But in case you haven't, this is your warning to get out now, go watch the film, and then come back and finish listening.
Yeah, go watch the film.
All right, guys. So 2001 A Space Odyssey was written and directed by Stanley Kubrick based on the novel of the same name that came out at the same time, written by Arthur Clarke. Is that correct?
Arthur C. Clarke is kind of his...
Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, excuse me. The IMDb synopsis says, a space opera spanning the dawn of man to humanity reaching the stars. 2001 A Space Odyssey tells the story of the Black Monolith, humanity's evolution, and the rise of AI's ultimate supercomputer, HAL 9000.
I did want to say, this movie came out in 1968, so let's just keep that in mind as we talk about it from here on out, too. Because 68's way before any of the Star Wars movies came out and before any of the space opera movies. So, yeah, keep that in mind as we go into the next segment.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Well, we just didn't say it. Anyways, I'm continually impressed that it came out in 1968. I was reading about that yesterday, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it came out so much earlier than Star Wars and stuff.
Yeah. I saw it with a friend who I convinced to go see it, and he had never seen it, and I had no idea what it was about or anything like that. And I think when I told him during like the intermission, which, you know, there's an intermission in this one, which I don't remember if there's an intermission if you actually just watch the movie.
I don't think there is one on the DVD.
Yeah, I don't remember one. I was surprised when it happened. But anyways, I told him during the intermission that it was from 1968 and like pre-Star Wars, and his mind was kind of blown at some of the stuff they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
I can go first if that's all right with you fellas. Talking about 2001 A Space Odyssey is really fairly intimidating because there's already been so many people that have talked and written things about it and made movies about it. And I think the only thing I can really kind of tell you guys is about my own relationship to 2001. And, you know, I watched this a very long time ago for the first time. And this is kind of where it gets a little embarrassing because I didn't really get all the aspects of the movie the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it, or aspects of it, at the time, but overall the film was a mystery to me, and it didn't necessarily leave me satisfied or seeing things in a different light, or it just left me feeling wanting a little bit. And this time, however, and maybe it's because it's in the theater, I get why people like it so much. It's not action-packed. It's almost 3 or 4 different movies, I think, or different short films in there. But it was pretty amazing. The whole way through, the detail of the future, the monkey sequence is amazing, or the gorilla sequence, or whatever we want to call them, the primates. And it held my attention the whole time. And I think maybe that's a problem with watching it at home, is it's so easy to be distracted. And this is a movie that you can easily get distracted in, I believe. And maybe you guys have different takes on that, but I think it's one that you can easily get distracted, but you are rewarded so much when you pay attention. And when you give to this movie, you receive stuff back. And I really love this movie this time, and on the IMAX. And the fact that it came out in 1968, I think it looks better than a lot of the 80s sci-fi movies did. So, yeah, I love this movie, and I can't wait to talk more about it with you guys. Mike, what did you think?
So this is my third time watching 2001. I first saw it many years ago on DVD, but even though I had enjoyed it, it never really connected with me. I saw it again in college for a class, but again, it kind of left me sort of cold, which is not to say I didn't like it, but, you know, it's a tough egg to crack, you know, intentionally so. This time, however, like you, I was not bored at all. I think seeing it blown up large in IMAX the way it's intended to be seen really helped. Well, not IMAX, but on a big screen, you know, the way it's intended to be seen. I think that really helps. You can't look away or check your phone or try to look at the time. You're just there. There are so many little details you don't fully appreciate on a smaller screen, especially in standard definition. If 2001 has never really sat right with you, I would suggest seeing it in theaters, or if you don't listen to this by the time it's out of theaters near you, when the 50th anniversary Blu-ray is released, you know, get it. Watch it on the biggest screen you can. And I promise you, you will like it more than you did if you saw it on DVD, you know? To those of you who saw it in theaters back in the 60s, or any time it's been released since then, I'm glad that I'm able to watch it in theaters, because I feel like I appreciate it more now than I ever could have watching it, you know, on DVD when I was 20 years old or whatever, you know?
Yeah, except who was it, Rock Hudson, in the 60s, like at the premiere of 2001, he like famously stormed out of the theater yelling, "What the hell is this movie about?"
Yeah, that's
or something
him.
like that. He didn't enjoy it in the 60s or in
No,
the
I
theater
imagine
so
a lot
much.
of general audiences didn't like it, but the ones who really call it a classic and the reason it stood the test of time, I think seeing it in the theaters really helps kind of cement what's so great about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you don't have anything else, Mike, I'll go into my thoughts.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I kind of have to say a lot of the same stuff that you guys said. Mike, I think you and I watched this a couple times together, one being, it might have been our first time to watch it, and I know we definitely watched it in that same college class together. And kind of like you guys, the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, you know, the Hal stuff was interesting when he started turning on him. That's cool. The end was kind of wild, you know? And I was just like, you know, I was like, okay, I see, it's cool. And then the second time I was like, wow, this movie is good. And then I watched it a third time, showing it to my girlfriend for the first time, and that time it really started to settle in. Even though I was watching it on TV, I was like, wow, this movie is really good. But this last weekend when I saw it, and I saw it in an actual IMAX screen, so very large, and I will say I absolutely love this movie now after watching it that way. I think there's very few, if any, other movies I can think of that necessitate being seen in a theater as much as this one does. Because like you guys said, it's so easy to get distracted or to be bored when you're at home and there's a million other things around you to do during like the slow parts of this movie, because there are slow parts. You know, I'm not going to say every bit of this movie is like 100% riveting and action packed, because it's not. But when you have a million other things around you, it's easy for that to feel boring because there's so many other things you could do. Going to a theater, sitting down in the dark, nothing but the screen in front of you to look at, and the loud sound, because that's one thing that the theater, at least I was in, had, was like very impressive sound quality, which makes this movie all the more impactful, like either from like the loud score, the loud music, or the loud sound effects, like when they're out in space and it's just the soundscape is just breathing. That was like really loud and like kind of in your face in a way that I've never really felt just watching it on like my TV speakers or my soundbar or whatever. So I think if you like this movie or even are okay with this movie, I think you have to go see it in theaters while you can. You just kind of have to, in order to like fully experience it, because I think it pays off so well. It's so rewarding to get in the tone of the movie and in the mood of the movie and get engulfed in it, you know, get engulfed in the slow sections. It all pays off by the end of the movie for me.
Yeah, that's a really great word to describe it. Being engulfed in the movie is exactly what happened to me, you know, and I think you're completely right.
There's a reason this movie is a classic, and I think a lot of that comes from the uniqueness of it. This film doesn't feel like anything else. The mystery, the tone, the artistry in which the most simple things are told. I mean, I both understand why it's a masterpiece and also why a lot of people struggle to love it the way they feel they should. Mm-hmm. It's very intentional, very poetically told. It gets rid of all the exposition that would normally carry a genre science fiction movie and tries to show you something very minimal and very clean, I guess, of all that kind of movie junk.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like any other Kubrick film. Like it's not like Kubrick's style to an extent, right? Like it just feels like its own thing even within Kubrick's work.
Would you say, just addressing Kubrick, I think you could apply that to a lot of his work. I think Barry Lyndon feels very different from, 2001, but it also feels very different from The Shining, right?
Right.
But obviously, I mean, this one's probably the most different for sure.
It's also different. I watched the sequel to this last night, the 2010, The Year We Make Contact. And I don't know, have either of you guys seen it?
No, but I hear it's a lot like the first book, is a lot different than 2001: A Space Odyssey. I hear that the sequel, 2010, is a lot like the book series in tone and not quite as difficult to parse.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And it's funny, Kirsty, you said that you didn't think that the 80s sci-fi movies and Star Wars, you think that 2001 being made in 1968 looks better than those. Well, 2001 looks way better than 2010, which I didn't quite expect. I should have, but I didn't. But the other thing about it too is that it feels very similar in tone and style and look to Alien. And I should have checked, but I didn't actually check like the year it came out versus when Alien came out, but I think they came out around the same time. It seems like someone was like, we need a sequel to 2001, but all of that slow paced stuff and like space docking and artsy weird stuff at the end, like, let's just don't do any of that and just give us like the tense space stuff and give us a movie that people will like. It's what, like, I can almost hear the conversation in my head of like the people trying to make this movie while watching it. It's not very good.
Give us more HAL 9000. That stuff was great in the movie.
Yeah. Then,
answer some questions.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which, to be fair, the book 2001: A Space Odyssey answers like every question, and the plot is completely told to you. There's no ambiguity whatsoever. And Kubrick, I think, wisely chose to cut that out because it bogs you down in stuff that he wasn't interested in, and that ultimately doesn't really matter to what he wanted to say and what makes 2001, the movie version, so great.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ambiguity and the ability to read into things that make the movie so interesting that keep me thinking back on it. Like, even prior to this release coming out and knowing I was going to go watch it, you know, my thoughts occasionally turn to 2001, and I start thinking about things that happened in it and like trying to dissect them in my head. And, you know, 2010 and I guess the books and whatever, they don't do that at all. And that's what sets 2001 apart, man.
I was going to ask you guys, and this is much later in the movie, do we think that HAL 9000 is alive?
How do you mean?
Is he a sentient being that has emotions, and is he sentient? That's the question, I guess.
I think the conclusion the film brings you to is yes, undoubtedly so.
Okay, so what reasons do you have for that the film give? And I'm not like arguing, but just I was wondering.
Well, whenever Bowman goes in there to shut Hal down, Hal literally tells him, "I'm afraid."
Yeah. He
has no reason to tell him I'm afraid unless he wanted to convince him not to kill him. And even then, why try to convince him not to kill you at all unless you're afraid?
Unless that was a programmed response if somebody was trying to turn you off.
I mean, maybe so, but I still feel like the answer we are to draw is that Hal was scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the kind of go-to response you can give to like any emotion that Hal is portraying throughout the movie is like, did someone program him to react that way or to think that way or whatever? But I think the thing with that scene is, why would someone program in an ability or a reaction to try to convince someone from shutting him down? Because if someone is going to go shut Hal down, they have a good reason. So like as a human programmer, I don't think you would put that in, right? Like you wouldn't make it harder mentally or like try to make someone feel bad for shutting him down if it's what's necessary.
I guess. I think they had said that they had never shut down a HAL 9000 before because they've never been given cause to. So I'm not sure. But you're right. I was just curious, and, you know.
No, it's a good question. I think that's one of the many questions that the movie wants you to think about.
Yeah.
And his motivations in the movie do seem kind of vague, right? Like we don't know exactly why he goes off the rails the way he does. In the book, I think it's explained, but it doesn't really matter because I think it's more interesting to ask that question, you know?
So, yeah, I guess that's a good question too. Why does he go off the rails? Is it because he has knowledge of the mission? Yeah, what do you guys think he malfunctions?
The way I read it in the film, and as you said, Mike, I think the book explains more. I know that's kind of the whole plot of 2010, so I'm trying to like erase that from my mind and just kind of disregard what they say in there. The whole plot is like trying to get back to Jupiter and to the ship and find out what happened to Hal and why he did what he did. So I'm going to erase that from my head and just go like what I thought while watching the movie all of the times before that. And I think what it goes down to is the TV interview where they're interviewing Hal early on when we first meet him. And he's talking about himself and how great he is and how he's never made a mistake. And the reporter calls him out for having like a sense of pride.
Right.
I feel like the mission being unsuccessful for any reason is unacceptable to Hal. And it's a pride thing. It's like, I would rather kill all of these people and get to Jupiter and do my job than have the mission jeopardized by one of these people.
Oh, so it's the robot can take care of it and he wants to get rid of any extra problems that humans might cause?
Yeah,
I think simply put, he just doesn't trust the humans to not mess up the mission.
Okay.
Because it all begins after he talks to Bowman. He's like, you seem to have doubts.
Right.
And it all kind of stems from there. So I don't think Bowman successfully convinced him that he wasn't nervous. And I think Hal got nervous that he was nervous and decided to take matters into his own hands.
Yeah. Hal is pure confidence, and any doubt is probably like purely awful or evil to him or something.
Right. He's done all the math, and the humans are the only variables that, make it so that they may not finish the mission. Okay, cool.
And then once they start doubting him, he's got to kill them for self-preservation.
I have a question for you guys, and this is around the monolith. And I think in the second time of watching the movie, I started to put together that the monolith appears, and then we get some sort of advancement or evolution, initially with like technology in the first parts of the film, which eventually evolve man.
What is the second advancement when they find on the moon? Is that HAL 9000? What is the second technological advancement?
Then all of a sudden they're going to Jupiter for the first time.
Yeah, and with the most advanced artificial intelligence ever. So I kind of feel like, it's HAL, and just advancement of technology in general, because like all the food is better looking, and the technology in terms of like how they're moving and stuff. Like the one, in order to like go upside down, the waitress like has to walk very slowly to like go to the captain's thing, and then when we cut to the Jupiter mission, that guy's literally running that circle.
I see, yeah.
So I feel like it's altogether better technology, but also the most advanced AI.
I feel like that might also just come from the set being bigger and designed differently also.
Possibly. I mean, that may be one of those things I'm reading way too much into.
it could go either way. Honestly, I don't know. But yeah, go on.
Okay, so my question is, do you guys think that the monolith literally causes advancement or change? Like, does it literally bestow knowledge or bestow change? Like, by touching it, do the people like magically understand like picking up a tool? Or is it more of like the monolith as a symbol that just by encountering it and the way that it makes you think of like, this is a thing I don't recognize. This is some object that is clearly, made or clearly not of this earth or not of anything we have experience with. And then the way that makes you think, is that what causes the change? Or do you think it's a literal like effect of the monolith?
I don't know that it matters too much, but I think ultimately it comes down to when you see it, there's an inherent understanding on some level that there's something above you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like whether that's a subconscious thing or like a very conscious in your face thing. I think the ultimate revelation is that we strive for more because we know that now more exists. This is proof that more exists, and we got to get there and figure out how and why.
Yeah, like the competition of it in a sense.
Yeah, just the curiosity of it.
Yeah. So the only thing that makes me question that, I guess, is it feels like at the end of the movie, when the monolith shows up right before Bowman dies, then he becomes the space baby, for lack of a better term. The Star Child. Is that right? Is it Star Child or Space Baby? I don't know. Whatever.
I doubt it's called Space Baby.
Yeah, probably not. So he becomes that when the monolith shows up, which is like sort of like a next evolution of man sort of thing, like a new form. And
closer to the beings that have him for the later part of his life.
Yeah, it feels like they're literally transforming him and literally changing him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't that how it kind of feels with the primates? So they see it, and we see the primates changing as they have their technology, their bone weapons. But when we see them fight off the other primates at the water pit, they're standing upright. They look more like humans. So they have evolved into something that's more like humans. And I think at the end, isn't that the same where he's starting to evolve into the next step of our evolution?
Right, where physical bodies don't matter so much. Like, I don't think there's actually literally a like giant baby floating around in space. I think it's more like the beings that abducted him when he gets to Jupiter, which is that they are mainly just consciousness. They don't have physical forms as much. And so I think that's the next step for humanity, right? Like, we're not going to get any better physically. So right. I think it's all about mental stimulation, not so much physical evolution.
Yeah, so what we're seeing on screen is evolution. Like metaphorical or just like an embodiment so we can see something as an audience, like an embodiment of consciousness.
I think that's what the baby represents, right? Like, I mean, it could be anything. In the books, he goes back to Earth and basically gets all the satellites and like creates nuclear war or something like that. Yeah, and wisely Kubrick ignores all of that and makes it way more ambiguous, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Ultimately, I think what matters is it's the next step of our intelligence, and that's really all the monolith represents. The physical attributes came with that at the beginning, but ultimately, when there's no more physical attributes to perfect, it's just about polishing the mind.
Right. That makes sense. And on the note of, while we're talking about like the apes in the beginning, do you think that Kubrick is making any sort of commentary on evolution and advancement with having the ape, shortly after discovering the bone and using it as a tool, murders a fellow ape? And then again, when Hal, as an advanced being in terms of artificial intelligence, I think he's the first one of his kind, right? They're the first like
there's a sister computer on Earth.
Oh, okay.
But
early on, like then it turns and kills the crew. Do you think that? I mean, I guess that's in the novel too, I'm sure. But like, is there a commentary on what we do with our newfound technology?
I think there is. So you mentioned the water hole earlier, right? So as soon as the first ape learns how to use the bone as a tool, all of a sudden, that tribe is in charge. He's looking out for his tribe. The other tribe, or the other clan of apes that come there looking for water, he scares them away with his newfound tool and intelligence. Mm-hmm. Then, shortly after this, we get Floyd, the first man, coming to the moon base, right? Mm-hmm. But when he's at the space station, he's talking to the people at that table over drinks, kind of like a watering hole. And he is being privy with the information he's giving out. They want to know, so their tribe can survive, if there's an epidemic on the moon. And he doesn't give them that information. It's not the same as shooing them away from your water hole with a bone, but it's looking out for your tribe.
Yeah, and he's the dominant one because he's
got the information. He's got the tool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is interesting. Do you think it's in any way negative towards advancements in technology in the way that, like, maybe not fully negative, but like advancements in technology or advancements in us as a species ultimately?
I don't think Kubrick ever had much
us?
Positive to say about us as a species.
Yeah, that's probably true. So negative then. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's a condemnation of the species, not the technology, right? That's my feeling for it.
Sure, yeah, what we quickly use things for.
Yeah, the first thing we use this great new thing for is going to be violence as opposed to, peace or good. When I first got an iPhone, I hit somebody with it. That's...
We have to test the durability, obviously.
Yeah.
And the durability of your friend's face.
It didn't work.
How do you guys feel about all the slow-paced space scenes where ships are moving from one point to another, or like docking? Because Kubrick really takes his time with these scenes, which is one of the things that helps the movie stand out and kind of be very different from any other space film that we've seen since, or at least a lot of them, except for ones that are imitating 2001. What do you guys think like the purpose is as a director, like, and as a storyteller, like why Kubrick would hold on those moments and make us sit through those that aren't particularly interesting in like a plot point, or where there's nothing going on with the story, right? At that point, like the story just takes a full halt.
Is it? I'm going to go out on a limb here and kind of, is it spectacle? This coming out in 1968, this kind of thing had never been seen on screen before. Is it about spectacle and the artistry of that, or is he trying to say something with it? I'm not sure.
Well, he deliberately likes slow movies, Kubrick does. I think a lot of it just had to do with his sensibilities. I think 2001 is much slower and more deliberate than even, his other slowest stuff like Eyes Wide Shut or, even parts of The Shining. But I think ultimately it comes down to he had a flair for telling a story in an artistic way. I don't know that there's much more to it than that, to be honest. I mean, maybe there is. Some Kubrick expert could probably tell us exactly why. But I think he just wanted to have a very slow, deliberate movie. It's kind of like how Paul Schrader referred to First Reformed, which is it's the art of withholding. And that's a certain tool that you can use to make your movie better and have a tone and a mood all its own, because it makes the audience do a lot of the work. He also says that you can easily abuse that and take it too far. So it's part of the art of that style, right? And I think the same thing applies to 2001, which is Kubrick went in with like a less is more attitude to mixed results with some people, but ultimately I think that's why it feels all its own, is because it was all about deliberate slow pacing, very little plot. That way your mind's just racing the whole time,
Would you consider it almost like the ship docking? Is that almost documentarian style? Like you're showing how the ship would dock in a lot of detail, right? Is that a...
I mean, maybe a lot of the beginning shots do seem to be him having fun with trying to predict future technology.
Yeah.
Which, sidebar, he does predict some stuff pretty well. Like
Skype.
Yeah,
Skype,
the iPad.
The iPads, yeah. which is interesting. Some of it is obviously not as on point.
HAL 9000
screens and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the slow space stuff. I do agree. I think with both of you guys to an extent, I think it's a combination of Kubrick style. I think it's a combination of spectacle and doing all of that space stuff, which was groundbreaking for the time. And I also think that slow pace and having to sit through it, which is one reason I think it pays off in theaters where you just have to sit there and watch it. I think sitting there does accent some points in the film and kind of make them pay off, which I think that goes also with what you were saying, Mike, or that Paul Schrader was saying, that withholding can make other things pay off more. And I think two moments I'll bring up. One of them is whenever Hal takes the pod and like goes and knocks that other guy off into space. I can't remember the other doctor's name that's with him. Not Bowman, but the one who dies out in space. And Bowman has to get in the pod and go out to rescue him. And the guy's just like flailing through space really fast. And that pod is just coming out so slow out of the door. You know what I mean? It's like inching out there and you're like, you're never going to catch him. This is taking like 3 minutes for you to even like get the pod out the door. And he's going to be long gone. Like, I think that slow pace like pays off there.
Yeah, and it's also showing us we are a slave to our tools. We are completely out of our element. We're waiting on this very slow tool. Without it, we would be completely screwed. Mm-hmm. And so contrasting that with the beginning, it shows that humans in space, you're completely reliant on your tools, And so when they start to all malfunction on you one by one, how do we deal with that? And if you can deal with that, maybe you qualify to become the next evolution.
Congratulations, you just won the next step in humanity.
That's what this is. He finally, he's like the first customer to...
Dr. Awesome. Bowman, come on down.
Yeah, come on down. The bodiless beings choose you.
Yeah. Okay, so that goes to my next point, and we can kind of delve into this part of the film too if you guys want, but the Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite section, I think the slow pace stuff like from earlier pay off immensely here, because at this point he goes on this journey that the monolith things kind of take him on, and like the colors are flying past the screen. We're like zooming out over like weird colored landscapes, and all of that comparatively to all the other motion and travel in the movie is very fast paced. So I think it's another like touch that like doing that earlier accents like just how advanced these beings are, because look how freaking fast they're flying through space. Everything's turning to crazy colors and like supposed to kind of light speedish, right?
Entering a different realm of existence.
Yeah. So I think, I think it is a storytelling point to accent some other things, and there's probably more things that it accents that I haven't picked up on yet, but it's all the more reason to watch it again.
Yeah. Apparently, originally in the book, and Stanley Kubrick, even in the original treatment, wanted to make it Saturn instead of Jupiter, but they didn't have the technology to make good-looking rings, so they went with Jupiter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Saturn is like
stupider.
Yeah, Saturn is the most visually interesting planet, I guess. So it makes sense. Sorry to anybody who loves the other planets. If email us or text us or whatever at Casual Cinecast and tell me why the other planets are better. But that won't make
Saturn not the best looking planet in the solar system.
That's true.
Sorry to tell you.
Facts are facts.
Yeah, nothing
I
you
really
can do
think
about that.
I actually really think Uranus is the best looking planet.
Yeah, you would though, So
not surprised.
Yeah, I get it.
So I don't know if you guys want to delve into Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. There's like a million things that I've written about it, I'm sure, and like that have been said about it. I basically just want to say how much I love that section. Like I like sat up in my seat. I got super excited when we got to that part in the theater. I was like, all right, we're here.
Yeah. And
I even rewatched it again, like later on in the week, like from home. I like busted out my Blu-ray and was like, I just want to watch Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite again.
Yeah, it's edited so well. Like once he gets to that room, he just observes himself getting older.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, and it condenses time so well. You get exactly what's happening. His whole life just plays out in no time at all. And I don't know, it's beautifully edited. And the fact that Kubrick doesn't explain anything is just, it's just great,
That's
the only way a film like this could hold up so well.
And that's the amazing thing. I really appreciate, I think Quentin Tarantino said something about how he wants his films, like he wants 1,000 people to go see his films, and 1,000 different films, kind of, everybody sees a different film. And that's especially with 2001. I think almost we could each have a completely different interpretation of the film, and none of us be wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine, whatever you come out with.
And the thing about it is, there is an explanation. Like, it's in the book. Kubrick even has his own explanation. But even knowing all of this, he constructed it in such a way to where it could be vague. Just so if you don't like that version, or that's not what you got from it, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. Even though there is an answer, and that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, Justin talking about how there are answers in 2010 really made me not want to watch 2010. I just want 2001 to be what it is, and I don't want any more additional information about it, so that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, they're careful enough not to give you super definite answers about the biggest questions, but they certainly let you know more than 2001 itself does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you guys want to know more about that, it's on YouTube. We can link it in the show notes. There's an interview of Stanley Kubrick in 1980 talking to a friend of his over the phone, and he describes the third act of 2001: A Space Odyssey in very literal terms.
Yeah, I listened to it as well.
Did he know he was being recorded?
I think so.
Okay. Like, that'd be a real jerk thing to do. The friend calls you up and is like, please tell me.
Even though he tells you this, it's all stuff that, like, watching the movie you can put together. Mm-hmm. It's literally just him confirming what you suspect is happening.
Yeah.
But I don't think it matters because that's not the point of the movie. That's just...
Exactly.
Yeah. It's all the literal explanation of what's happening, but that it still leaves open all the metaphorical things and some symbolical things that you can take away.
Yeah. Cool. So Christopher Nolan obviously loves this film. He has pretty much championed the re-release, getting it shown in IMAX, and I think I defy anyone to tell me that Interstellar wasn't just one huge copycat of 2001, with none of the charm or tact. About it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really kept me from enjoying Interstellar into the day. It's like, well, I've seen most of this stuff done in a more interesting way 45 years ago. like to all those people wondering, what would 2001 be like if it were more like a traditional movie with plot and exposition? And that answer is Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. I mean, it's a valiant effort, and I don't really like the movie end of the day, but it does have some good stuff in it. It does have some interesting things in it.
No, it's true. And Interstellar's a solid movie for what it is. It's no 2001. And unfortunately, you cannot watch Interstellar without thinking of 2001 because it is just such a shameless, let's just call it an homage. That's a nicer way to put it. It's just a huge homage to 2001, right?
Right.
Yeah, at least the third act.
Yeah.
If not,
and a lot of the second.
Yeah.
Even down to there's a scene in Interstellar where they have to dock a ship onto a spinning station. And I was thinking about that when I was watching 2001 this time. At the very beginning scene when the ship had to match the rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no one says we have to match the rotation.
Yeah, he just does it.
Or we will die or whatever.
Or blow up or whatever the hell's going on.
I did really like that sequence in Interstellar, but yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it within the movie that it is.
The only thing wrong with it is just that I was thinking of 2001 the whole time.
Yeah, it's
right.
it's like that scene in 2001 pumped up to 11, because everything's spinning so much faster.
Yeah.
But not everything is better louder. Soft jazz isn't meant to be blasted into your ears as loud as possible. Sometimes it's better to just be in the background at a low.
You heard it here first. You can listen to the music at whatever volume you want.
Yeah. It's a weird analogy. Sorry, guys.
It's all right. This once.
Cool. So I'm done. I'm out of notes.
Yeah, I'm out too. I think anything else we could say has already been said probably 100 times in the last 50 years.
Yeah. I think the one thing I have to say is this may come out too late for you to go see it in the theater this time. But I consistently see 2001 coming to theaters, and I just have never gone before. And I'm going to keep a lookout because I want to go see it again as well in the theater. So, keep your eye out. If you see or hear of it going to the theater, let me know. But you go buy your ticket, go see this in the theater. Do yourself this favor, because I think this movie, almost more than any other movie, to me, deserves to be seen in the theater. That it's really great. Really great.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on, I agree with everything Chris said. I just wanted to ask you guys, what'd you think of the restoration and the colors on this version? It's a lot different than the DVD and the home video release that we've been used to all these years.
I don't remember what it looked like on DVD. I'd have to check it out again. And Justin just recently did. But I would say whatever
on
they
DVD,
did,
it's a lot whiter looking,
okay.
brighter, and it's a lot more greens and blues in the remaster. It seems like.
Yeah,
I'll
great.
link the trailer, the comparison trailer. There's a YouTube video that compares the two versions for the trailer of the 50th anniversary. I'll link it in the show notes. So if anyone listening wants to see the difference in look now for 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's quite significant.
Cool.
Yeah. I think with some of the outside space stuff of like the ships flying around in space, I think on such a big screen and remastered and stuff, I do think there's a little tiny bit of like the seams showing of some of the effects work that they're doing.
Yeah, especially the planets.
Yeah. I think you can let that go.
Sure. It didn't bother me at all.
Because it didn't bother me. It's just like, oh, yeah, okay.
It's worth it for the richness of the images, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. They're still like great looking images, you know.
It's like someone put 2001: A Space Odyssey through Instagram.
Right.
How do you guys think this movie stacks up special effects wise? I mean, I think I said it looked as good, or if not better, than Star Wars. I mean, and that's a big
I think Justin said it best when he said it looks better than 2010, which came out a decade later or more.
Yeah. Even the outside of the space stuff, like it looks significantly worse and like way more fake in 2010 and in other films.
So to answer your question, I'd say it holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So before we get out of here, we do have some listener questions. You guys ready to answer those?
Yeah.
All right. So first up, we have from @Cinemusts on Twitter. He asks, do you think you have to turn in your cinephile card if you don't think 2001 is the end-all, be-all of science fiction or movies in general? Asking for a friend.
I don't think you ever have to turn in your cinephile card for not liking a movie. I may disagree with you and think it's a good movie, but I don't think you ever have to turn in your card for not liking a movie that I like.
Well, I'd also say that you're not alone in that opinion either.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feedback we got from this question that we didn't include because a lot of people are just kind of offering their thoughts on 2001. But a lot of people talk about how they struggle with this movie. And like I said earlier, I've watched this movie 3 times now, and this is the first time I've truly loved it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that, Mike.
So it took 2 times of watching it on DVD and then 1 time in theaters for me to really say that I think I get it now.
Yeah.
I could always appreciate it, but to answer your question, no. I don't think you have to turn in your cinephile card, but never assume that you know this movie front and back. Let me put it to you that way. Yeah. Always dive back in if you think you can.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and I will respond with a question to @Cinemusts. Where did you get your cinephile card? Because I don't think I have one. No one gave me one.
You're supposed to fill one out before we started the podcast.
Justin, come on, man.
Yeah, you actually cannot podcast anymore.
This is embarrassing.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I guess I'm going to get out of here, guys.
Yeah.
We better cut this.
Yeah, we're going to get arrested.
Cut me out of this whole episode.
In the last 50.
All right.
Cool. All right, well, thanks for the question, @Cinemusts.
Yeah, that was a great question. Awesome. The next question is from the Dare Daniel podcast, and he says, Corky Knievel?
Corky Knievel.
Is it Knievel or is it Knievel?
It's Knievel, like Evil Knievel.
Okay. All right. @Corky Knievel recently labeled HAL 9000 as the best movie robot on an upcoming mini episode for a few reasons. His question to you is, do you think it's possible or appropriate for a non-human to be considered for acting awards?
Have you guys seen, I forget the name of the director, but he actually wants to cast an artificial intelligence for his next movie. Let me see if I can find that information. Continue on something else. I'll come back.
Okay. Well, Justin, why don't you answer while he does that?
So, I mean, I think there's a couple of different ways to take the question. For one, I mean, I think if it's literally a computer voice that's automated that is doing the work on screen, then I don't know. I guess I would say no, because they're not there's no way that they can change it. They're going to read it the same every time. So like that skill of acting doesn't come into play there unless it's an improv performance on like a AI that can like talk to you and talk back to you and carry on a conversation with you. If it's an improv performance, then maybe I'll say that. But I mean, I guess the other way that I was thinking about the question was if a like Scarlett Johansson in Her, could she be considered for an acting award for doing the voice of a computer? And I would say yes.
That's how I
to
read
that.
the question. I
would
just read
say
the
yes
question
to
as
that.
like, can actors be nominated for playing lifeless robots? Is kind of how I read.
Yeah, I read it that way, but it also says for a non-human to be considered for an acting award. So
Okay.
the person considered for an acting award would be the non-human.
Okay, so the short answer to that question for me would be no. I don't think actual robots should be considered for acting awards. And the other answer I have is yes. I do believe that performers should be considered, like actors should be considered for playing robots, but it would have to be a very impressive role to merit an actual like acting award, right? So like I don't think HAL 9000 would qualify because although it's a unique personality and very memorable, that actor didn't have to do a whole lot. So I don't know. It's like, but he could have, you know what I mean? Like, so like Scarlett Johansson in Her, that's a little different. So I think it just depends on the performance, to be honest. It's just not very often you see a really, really interesting robot role.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember hearing Kevin Spacey in the talks for Moon to be nominated for an Oscar. But I did find that article, and it's from Deadline, and the headline reads, filmmaker Tony Kaye casts robot as lead actor in next feature. And then as the advancement of technology continues to replace the need for human labor, American History X director Tony Kaye is undertaking a new and maybe controversial step in filmmaking by employing an artificial intelligence actor as the lead in his next film, Second Born. So
that sounds like an Onion article. Are you sure?
It does, but
check the website.
It's Deadline. Okay. And there was, when I looked it up, The Guardian, IndieWire, Daily Mail. So yeah, you're right. It does sound like an Onion article, and I don't even know what the hell's going on, but apparently he casts an AI in his movie.
It's the way of the future.
Yeah. Putting us actors out of work.
All right. Well, is there anything else?
I think that does it for me.
And it does it for me.
Don't forget to check out our most recent Casually Criterion poll where we're voting on themes. This month, they were inspired by Crazy Rich Asians. So go check out that poll. Vote. Choose our next Casually Criterion episode.
Yep. So thanks in advance for going to vote in that poll. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you, Mike and Chris, for doing the episode with me.
And thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
For not getting your cinephile card.
You're welcome.
You ruined everything.
That's our hook. That's how we hook the audience on the podcast without a cinephile card holder. Yeah. Then, of course, thank you, Jake Wagner Russell, for doing our intro and outro music. You can hear more of his music at soundcloud.com/bopscotch.
All right. Join us next week. Our episode will be over the new thriller, Searching, starring John Cho, which is exciting.
Yeah. I like that guy.
Me too. Awesome. So we'll see you there.
All right. Yeah. So don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. Don't forget to review us on iTunes. Then that's it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
See you later.